Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Make sure our audio levels are good. We've had some glitches in recent times running through StreamYard. I never had them before recent weeks. And just want to make sure we're coming through because this is going to be an important broadcast. Repeating a message we've taught many times, but it just becomes more clear by the day. Okay, thank you. The audio is good. I appreciate it. So, CNN is running a story today about a young child, 9 years old, who was killed on June 3rd by gun violence. And the child's name is King Javier Black. And of course, he's a young, darker complected child. And he's from the Atlanta suburb where MLK was killed. I had this on the TV when I caught wind of this while I was making a little lunch. And they mentioned, the language came out of the news commentary that the killing was little more than 4 months ago. And I'm like, okay, Georgia, the fourth state, get MLK killed on 4/4, Martin Luther King, King Javier Black, the black civil rights leader, the same numbers. So, I wasn't watching the TV, but I was listening and I was chopping something up. And then I heard him bring up the date, June 3rd. And I was like, oh my God, June 3rd, 6/3. And isn't it weird, you guys? Our last stream, we were reading Malcolm X's quotes, and I posted the link, and I said, hey, there's a whole bunch more quotes to check out. But we stopped right here at 63, right? Last thing we talked about. What a great quote from Malcolm X. If I misspoke, not Martin Luther King Jr., but these are Malcolm X quotes. And we stopped right here at 63. I believe that there will ultimately be a clash between the oppressed and those who are doing the oppressing. I believe that there will be a clash between those who want freedom, justice, and equality for everyone and those who want to continue the system of exploitation. I believe that there will be that kind of clash, but I don't think it will be based on the color of the skin. And he had this vision where you allow black people to be oppressed right now. Just wait until this evil ruler is oppressing your ass too. And then when enough of you get it, then you'll fight back. And that's where we're going, you guys. And anyway, so here's this story now, right? And he's killed on 6/3. And if you're new to my work, I talk about racism in 63 a lot. And also, in light of Malcolm X being a Muslim, at least for part of his life, I also talk about why the Prophet Muhammad is believed to have died at age 63 and why Muhammad Ali died on June 3rd, 6/3 in the year 2016. If you add 1 through 63 together, it equals 2016. Just like how Berlin Wall equals 63 and Trump was called President-elect Mr. Wall on the anniversary of the fall of the wall. And then you run the alphabetic order the other way. Berlin Wall equals 45, like he was number 45 instead of 63. But anyway, to get to the point of this, if you're new to my work, 63 is used in stories like this that remind us about race and racism and how unfortunate it is to be part of this legacy that has so many people living in environments that aren't safe. And there's so many stories like this. King Javier Black. There's so many stories like this. But you pay attention to these news stories and you start to see, wait a minute, why does that date keep coming up? Why that 6/3 again? Why that 63 again? You guys, I looked at this kind of stuff for the longest time, and I did not know what was going on, but I knew something was going on. And then I found this book, Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages. He says there's a numeric sequence behind the alphabetic order, right? And just to make a point, this child's name, King Javier Black, when you take the alphabetic order with numerology, what he considers the most important cipher, his name equals 63, right? And we've been way before this story, we've been talking about racism in 63. They did so many 63 rituals with Bill Cosby when he's being dragged to the slammer at an old age. When he, for our culture, is the man that we grew up with through the television that so many of us are raised in front of, Bill Cosby, like the most wholesome black man in America. Then at the end of the life, he's this sick, sexual pervert who abused all these women, and now he's going to go to the slammer, right? And all these rituals along the way. 63. We've been talking about this stuff for years. For almost as long as this child has been alive. He's 9. And we've been talking about this kind of stuff. No, longer. It's been more than 10 years now. We've been talking about this for longer than this child's been alive. And again, we're going to get into something. I don't normally put theory in my title, like conspiracy theory. This is actually going to be a little bit of a conspiracy theory, but based on logic and facts and reasoning. And I want you to tell me what you think. If you do not know, in the UK in the year 2013, funny enough, the same year I was finding this in Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages. And by the way, actually, before we go any further, the other cipher, the most simple cipher is just the alphabetic order and the word racism, which is the alphabetic order 63. Okay? That's why we talk about this all the time. Just so you understand. Alphabetic order 63, you take the alphabetic order with numerology applied to each value. It gets you smaller numbers, and then his name equals 63. It's just basic mathematics. You could teach this to anyone who can do 1 + 1 is 2. Anyway. The show Utopia. It first came out in the UK in 2013, and then Amazon, with its streaming service Prime, remade the show, an American version, in 2020. And the British version runs 2 seasons, the American version runs 1 season. But there's so many different interesting plot elements in that show. One is that they're raising children to be mass shooters in schools for an agenda. And they're also raising children that they can literally kill in a news story to use for a story for an agenda. So they're raising children to be killers, and they're raising children to essentially be sacrificed for news propaganda meant to emotionally impact people. This is something in the show Utopia, where the main premise of the show, and again, it came out in 2020 while we were all in lockdown under the mandates, but it came out nice enough from Amazon. Jeff Bezos, he became richer than ever with everything locked down. They put out the show Utopia about a group of rich people who care about the earth very much, and the most important thing to them in the world is to preserve the earth. And to do it, they're going to have to kill a lot of people. So they do all these little different things to manipulate people into this agenda. And the most awesome one is they fake a pandemic on the televisions, which they control, and then do a mass vaccination campaign to sterilize future generations. And what's awesome is in the time of the lockdowns, Netflix added a show called Between, about the government doing a medical experiment for population relations on a small town, and then all throughout that episode, you keep seeing the medical building where they're trying to go to for answers, and every time they show it, you got the big address right up on there, 201. Like the Event 201 coronavirus pandemic simulation. Like how the real Martin Luther, who wrote the 95 Theses, was pinning the 95 Theses exactly 201 months before the Jesuit order was established. And then Martin Luther King Jr. got assassinated on the 95th day of the year, like how Martin Luther wrote the 95 Theses, and then the First Nation gun control, the first major gun control in this nation's history came in October of 1968, exactly 201 days after MLK's assassination. And I'm skipping around a little bit, but understand, 201 is the number of the Jesuit order. That's why the first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, is the first to live in Suite 201. And to make a long story short, in the 16th century, you got the Jesuits to stop the Protestant Reformation, which founders of this country were worried about what would happen if it would eventually come here. And again, D.C. went from Philadelphia, where the founders put it, to the capital went from Philadelphia, where the founders put it, to Washington, D.C., the Jesuit stronghold, again, for people who don't know. But it's why Inauguration Day is on the 201st day of the nation's age. But this 201 is a huge number with the Jesuits in Gematria. The Jesuit Order 201. Ignatius Loyola, 201, that's the founder. Jorge Mario Bergoglio, that's the first Jesuit Pope, the first to live in Suite 201. 201. And again, the Jesuits created to counter the 95 Theses 201 months after it was pinned. Again, MLK, since we're talking about King Javier Black, also from Atlanta, at least the suburbs, East Point. But this is who's doing this before we go any further. For anyone who's like, well, what's the point of knowing this? The point of knowing this is who is controlling this world, why we're on the Catholic Church's calendar, why English is credited to a Catholic monk, and why all of history is synced up like this since the 16th century when all of this went into motion. Again, that's when this happened. The calendar we're now on that says today is October 6th. And we're going to get to why that matters so much today again. But anyway, 6-3 is where we started. Let's get back to 6-3 with the child's name and racism. And again, if you're new here, there are 4 base ciphers. Okay, 4 base ciphers. They're simple. The alphabetic order. A is 1 up to Z is 26. The alphabetic order with numerology, probably the most helpful cipher in all this study. The reverse alphabetic order, the reverse alphabetic order with numerology. And notice, the word racism is 63, like the child's name, like the killing on 6-3, 3 and 99. And remember when Eric Garner got choked out and the officer had the 99 on his back? Remember that one? Way more to it. Staten Island, just the Gematria, they had so many 99s in that. And the 270s, a lot like 27, I think we can all agree to. And then notice how racism is also 45. 45 is the 9th triangular number. If you add 1 through 9 together, it equals 45. The child was 9 years old. This story implies race and what it is to grow up in certain areas where there's so much gun violence because of this terrible legacy that goes back to slavery. And again, Lincoln blamed the Civil War on the Jesuits. He said they were the biggest pushers of slavery in America. Anyhow, there's other things to talk about. There's so many numbers here, but I want to jump down to October 6th, 10/6. Last year, about a year ago, we were at the Yale campus and we pointed out, Yale, which has all these secret societies where numbers are important, and presidents who are part of these secret societies that are named numerically. They've been in the Oval Office and other high places in this nation. Johns Hopkins, founded by a Skull and Bones member at Yale. But we noticed that right down the street from the Yale campus was the Masonic Lodge for Black men. And it was the millionth time in the time of documenting all this stuff that the address of the building was 106. And of course, Black Entertainment Television. When you think 106, you think 106 in Park. But I want people to understand how the ciphers work and how this is not an accident. Black Lives Matter's 106. Black Power's 106. Black's 106. What's the point of knowing something like this? Go back to 2020. Before it happened in Portland, I said, watch out for the 106th day of the Black Lives Matter protest, which nationally was the biggest Black Lives Matter protest in the whole nation. Portland, national news. So we noticed the 106th day was going to be September 11th. And we said, well, that's funny because George Floyd equals 119 in Gematria. And his full name, George Perry Floyd, equals 201. And again, he was killed exactly 201 weeks after Adama Traore, who was killed on the 201st day of the year in the same fashion in France, where the Jesuits are originally from, where the last French Pope was the 201st. Anyway, if you're not familiar with my work with George Floyd, after the George Floyd killing, there was a restaurant that changed its name after 63 years. I wrote about that in my book, Number Games, where there's a big chapter on the George Floyd killing. That was fresh off the press when I put out the book. It took me longer to write the book because the George Floyd had to become part of it, part of the book I had written. I was almost done with it, and then George Floyd happened, and it made me add a lot more. But anyway, notice how Black Lives Matter's 106. And the point was, I circled Portland, Oregon in September 11th. Go back to what the headlines were for Portland, Oregon, September 11th, 2020. The air was black, the worst air quality in the world, the worst in the history of that city because of all the massive fires that came out of nowhere around the city. Now, what's weird is when I go down there, there's a lot of trees you can't see because all you can really see is what we see from where we live or where we are or from the road. There's all kinds of trees behind the roads. So, there's stuff to burn. There's trees everywhere, but they burn places that you, really can't see. You drive around Portland. I went down there after it happened, and I was like, so what the hell did they burn around here? I can't even find anything they burned around the city, but they made it this bad? And it was bad there. My family lives there, so they reported to me how it was. And I was telling them, I said, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the worth of my work. You guys could have bounced from town and not been there on September 11th. Go out to the beach. But anyway, that's the power of the knowledge. Knowledge is power. And by the way, knowledge is light to the occult. And in Hebrew Gematria, light is related to 201. And the English phrase, knowledge is power, is 201. That's no accident. You guys, they encoded this thing. There's a reason that they're all about this number. There's a reason Order of Illuminati equals 201. And Illuminati means illuminated, in the light, in the knowledge. Adam Weishaupt, the founder, dies 201 days after the anniversary of the establishment. He was a Jesuit, Adam Weishaupt. He was also Jewish. This letters and numbers thing comes from Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah. Jewish mysticism in Gematria equals 201. Like the Holy Bible equals 201. Like how Genesis 3:22 references the tree of life, the physical model for Kabbalah that has 3 pillars and 22 paths. But anyway, all of these things are 106, right? And then they got to give you this news about a young black child, right? King Javier Black. It's like reading from the books of prophecy. It's like thinking about MLK. Some say he was a prophet. But anyway, notice the word prophecy is 106. And if you think I'm tripping on that, we've been talking about this for a long time. In fact, we had a very accurate prediction about what would happen around the end of 2019, 2020, according to Bible script and prophecy and what it has to do with darker complected people and slavery. But again, Obama, number 44, elected number 44, 44 years after the Civil Rights Act. He put out his book, A Promised Land, on November 17th, which is 106 days from his August 4th birthday. 106 days after his birthday, he put out the book, A Promised Land, which is a play on Abraham, who's a prophet. The name of the book, A Promised Land, has the gematria of 59 and 76. Here, let me show you this. Obama's book, if you're not familiar with it. Look at this. A Promised Land, 5976. The word slave, 5976, right? The word Negro, 5976. Blues, 5976. Rasta. Little jokes like Eminem. Anyway, look at Obama. If you don't know this, look this up. Obama's Secret Service name is Renegade, which is 59, and then Barack Obama is 76. Again, the Bible, it starts with the books of Abraham, the first 5 books, the Torah. Everything that comes in the Bible is based after that story. In Acts, which is the 44th book of the Bible, like Obama was number 44, in Acts 7:6. Look at these verses. Acts 7:6 through 7:7. Look at this. This is what God said to him. Your descendants will be strangers in a land they don't own. The people there will make them slaves and will mistreat them. So slaves and mistreat. So it doesn't say like the whole time slavery, but just slaves and mistreated. Now, talk to black Americans, that's the sentiment. And a lot of times it's justified. At this day and age, though, there's also a lot of reasons not to complain. And again, we're all in a shit game. Don't let race be your excuse for why you don't excel in this world. A lot of people do that. And not just race, but just any circumstance. Whatever your circumstance is that's your excuse for why you can't get ahead, overcome it. Anyway, your descendants will be strangers in a land they don't own. The people there will make them slaves and will mistreat them for 400 years, but I will punish the nation where they are slaves. So that part's Acts 7:7 about punishing the nation. Now check this out. We just talked about where 76 has to do with slavery and the 44th book of the Bible and Obama's A Promised Land. Again, read these Bible stories if you need the dots connected further. It doesn't take that long to read the Torah. You can probably read it over the course of, depending on how fast you read it, very quickly, or maybe it might take you a week or two, but you'll get through it. Acts is not in the Torah, but again, just to understand that how slavery is an important component of the Bible and prophecy. Anyhow, our prediction was that, and we saw this years out in advance because we understood all this. When I started to see, I learned to reverse gematria at the end of 2016. I started to see this huge slave code. And I was like, oh my God. If you guys weren't here in 2016 when we discovered reverse gematria, that was 3 years into this study. I was mind blown by this stuff. I was like, this is making so much more sense now. Because then we started to notice this type of stuff. But 400 years was August 2019 for U.S. history in terms of what's in the books for slavery. It starts in August 1619. So I said, watch. Sometime after August 2019, could be the end of 2019, might be 2020, but not long after, this nation's going to get punished because Acts 7:7's where the nation gets punished. And again, this nation's capital's on the 77th meridian, and the United States is 77, and don't even get me started on Flight 77 into the 77-foot-tall Pentagon 77 minutes after taking off, and that's all from the 9/11 Commission report. They don't put it together like that, but again, it's all facts, and it just shows you what a big joke, a numerical joke they play on us. And again, it is biblical. Judaism is 77. Zionist is 77. We had the dancing Israelis, part of the mainstream story they gave us for people who are awake to start hating Jews needlessly. And I got to say, that's probably the biggest flaw I made in the truth community. I knew all Jewish people were never banned, but I had extra negative sentiment towards Judaism and a lot from doing research and about dancing Israelis. That really baited me as a 9/11 researcher, but now I see the bigger game. Now I understand why 2 towers became 0, became 1, and why State of Israel equals 201, and why it was set up on 14/5 when there's 145 chapters in the Catholic Old Testament. Our history, you guys, is by these numbers. That's what I'm saying. Not all of human history, but we're living this contrived history. And again, for all you guys who say, how do you know it's not organic? Come on, man. This story happened June 3rd. June 3rd. I haven't seen CNN. I'm not saying this is the first time CNN covered it, but I cover a lot of news. I missed some things. Somehow I did not remember. I mean, King Javier Black, this would have stood out in my mind. This name and this child and this story and all that we talk about in Atlanta. I'm seeing that they made sure that people saw it today. It was in the news talking about. Then I go on CNN's website and it's top story. King Javier Black was just happy to get to see his friends and how he was killed from American gun violence, which we really need to do something about as they try to instigate everybody from every angle and undermine what America's all about while we're all caught up in the big brawl. You know what I mean? And for all you guys who are going to come here and troll and say, Zach, you're always creating the controversies and brawl. Bullshit. I'm trying to say, man, get in line. Help me out. I'm telling you what I'm here for. I'm sick of this manipulation and bullshit that we get every day that's playing with our minds as they take away more and more rights and liberties and make more and more people hate life and be depressed. They're doing it on purpose, you guys. The Nation put out a suicide hotline last year, and they told us right at the beginning of 2020, before they locked us down, that again, this kind of stuff was in CNN, and we were talking about it back then, how they'd even put in the stories. The experts are weighing in and say lockdowns will bring all kinds of social ills and problems that might generate a larger suicide rate than actually COVID fatalities. And I'm like, okay, just based on that right there, and you're also telling us for most people it's 99% survivable, like how can we even be thinking about messing with society like this then? Are you kidding me? Again, all of this stuff they do to us, you guys, it's all part of the spell. It all needs to be broken, and it can all be broken at once, and people just see what's going on. So I'm out on here all the time. I didn't want to do any more videos today. But again, I was supposed to be making dinner right now, and I'll make up for it. I'll get. It just won't be as good as it was going to be. I was going to put all the extra ginger and garlic because sweet lady, she's been working hard all week. I want her to. She loves a lot of ginger and garlic. It takes me forever to cut it all up. But anyway, I got to shortchange it a little bit. I'm going to do the best I can with the time. But again, I'm on here because I'm so sick of this shit, man, and how we're being messed with, and this code, and how they use it every damn day and just slap us all back and forth across the face with it. It's so sick. Here, let me read the article. King Javier Black is never far away. The 9-year-old's prized collection of miniature grocery store items are scattered throughout the Michigan home where his mother, Joy Black, now lives. Again, it's going to get out there from the East Point, Atlanta. And by the way, Michigan equals 44 like Georgia, like shooting, like MLK did on 4-4, like Malcolm X killed on the 44 date numerology. You know what I mean? Like Marvin Gaye. That's how we closed out today's stream. Isn't it crazy? Marvin Gaye was killed on his last day of being 44. Right now I'm looking at his little strawberry Hershey syrup, Black said, and he's got little candy bars, Mr. Good bars, a turkey. Each night, they got to bring up the turkey, right? It's almost Thanksgiving. You can bring this up. Man, when are we going to do something about all... Each night, King's favorite Lilo, I think it's Lilo and Stitch, bed covers comfort his mom. She squeezes a plush doll of the animated extraterrestrial Stitch. It's been a big theme this year, right? Her son always slept with. He just loves Stitch, said Black. His teenage sister wraps herself in King's beloved Space Jam blanket. Man, can somebody protect Michael Jordan? I don't even like Michael Jordan. I'm a Michael Jordan hater. I'm from Portland, Oregon. Watch that motherfucker get away with everything in the rigged National Basketball Association. I don't like Michael Jordan. I'm a Michael Jordan hater, but I'd feel really bad if he got killed at 60, like Moses Malone did, like how essentially Kobe did, because it was a 60 ritual synced up with him and Daryl Dawkins, and it's all 60 between all of them. And again, it all goes back to the Old Testament in Exodus, where Moses' staff is turned to a snake. Again, look at the 1982 Moses ad for Nike with the staff, the year Kobe turned 4. And then they die 4 years apart. And Daryl Dawkins and Moses Malone, the first two out of high school, both dead right before Kobe's last season. Moses Malone drafted by Utah, dead at 60. Kobe dropped 60 213 days later. You know what I mean? 213 area code. LA wins the Super Bowl on 213 in their area code. Numbers. Goes on forever. Tupac releases All Eyes on Me on 213, dead 213 days later. And then the whole Jesuit ritual with the Machiavelli album on Remember the 5th of November. He's dead on Caesar Borgia's birthday, where white Jesus comes from. Speaking of racism, right? They put Tupac on the cross after the death on the album, which is a play on Machiavelli, who wrote The Prince based on Caesar Borgia, who white Jesus is from. September 13th is Caesar Borgia's birthday. Tupac Shakur dead on September 13th. Tupac Shakur 139 like Freemasonry, like America. You know? Anyway, coming back to the story, I don't even think I got to the part I need to get to. I see him every day, Black said. And by the way, this season's going to be 4 seasons since Kobe died, so I'm worried about Jordan at age 60, especially after last night's football game synced up with Jordan and Jim Jordan and 60 points scored in the game. And anyway, I see him every day, Black said. I have all his stuff surrounding me. It's been more than 4 months since King was fatally shot on June 3rd. I mean, if you guys watch my videos and just turn it off after one time, you don't understand that I'm here every fucking day showing the same thing. Another 4. What did they just have to report at the historically black college when it first broke? They knew that there were 4 victims somewhere. They made it seem like they were dead when the news broke. 4 victims, you know, and then it retracted to 5 injured people later. Pay attention to this crap. It's just same numbers over and over. And again, Georgia's the 4th state. Trump's 4th indictment in the 4th state, Georgia. The news breaks it's going to happen on his 60th day of his age before the 60th presidential election. Anyway. So he was killed June 3rd in East Point, a city southwest of Atlanta. And just for the record, the only direction, like if you do every direction, north, you know, northeast, east, so on, every direction, spell them all out, only one has a gematria 33 and it's southwest. Southwest. 33, like order, like secrecy, like masonry, like MLK's last speech and the Masonic Temple. Atlanta on the 33rd parallel. The Masonic headquarters in D.C., the Masonic City, the House of the Temple with 33 columns on the outside, each 33 feet tall. Again, masonry, order, secrecy. They all equal 33 and the dark blue cipher. But yeah, look at how they just emphasize just happy in these headlines. He was just happy. He was just happy. He was just happy. You know? Just happy. Gematria 44 like shooting like Georgia. And again, that's the weird synchronicity, right? This story wasn't out on CNN earlier. They put this one up for the evening time when people are getting home. Little emotional tearjerker to play with your heart, maybe we do need to take away the guns, man. This got to stop. For the kids. For the kids. We'll give up the rights and liberties for the kids so they can grow up in a tyranny state where there's no way to fight back. You know, obey your cell phone. Yeah, for people who watched the last stream, they did end with us talking about Marvin Gaye and killed it the last day of 44 and looking at Malcolm X's quote about society and 63 and how this might be the greatest gem there was. Isn't it funny? I didn't even go down after here. But we come back and now it's a story from June 3rd. But yeah, if you guys watch that stream, you know, stuff's going on in that stream because I got to talk about all this drama that doesn't need to be here. People always want to create drama with me. I'm not here for drama, you guys. I'm here to work my ass off and wake the fucking world up and stop this shit. I've been here every fucking day for over a decade proving my point. Here, you want some more shooter 44? I have a book, by the way, on mass shooters and 44 rituals and killing rituals in the news. Mass shooter 44, gunfire 44. Look at it. Killing 44. Or not killing, excuse me. Kill is 44. Infantry is 44. Military's 44. Soldiers 44. Troopers 44. Officers 44. Go back to the word soldier. Have you ever really thought about the word soldier? Notice how in Gematria it's 44, 37, and 107. So is shooting, right? 44, 37, 107. Just happy what they had in the headline. 44, 37, 107. See, all those same numbers. In Georgia's 44 and 37. But soldier, the word soldier, have you really thought about it? English is based in Latin, right? In the Latin languages, the word sol also represents sun. Again, the Tower of Babel, right? The tower that divides the world by language. So there's these different Latin languages that different parts of the world are speaking, but Latin languages are very common outside of the Chinese and Eastern languages. And by the way, it's the Far East where the number 4 is associated with death. But sol is sun, right? And we're talking about how the Jesuits, here, remember, here you guys, we're going to come back to soldier, but I got to make it all make sense. I told you in the 16th century, they set all this up. The Jesuits are the military order of the Catholic Church, carrying on the Templar tradition to kill at will for the Pope and the greater benefit of the church. Heliocentrism, though, was agreed to in the 16th century. It was the Catholic Church in that period conceding that the world is not the center of the universe, the sun is. And maybe we're lied to about that. I don't think the earth is flat, but I do think we're being lied to about a lot, and a big one, space. And I've always made that point, and I wrote a book about that. That's why it's annoying I get trolled for that. But heliocentrism is 201, right? In that same cipher, the Jesuit order is 201. Again, the Jesuits were saved by Catherine the Great with 201 Jesuit priests. And the first Jesuit pope is the first to live in Suite 201. And I could go on all day about 201, but again, from Martin Luther penning the 95 Theses to the Jesuits being formed 201 months later, when MLK was killed on the 95th day of the year, Martin Luther King Jr., like Martin Luther, the Protestant Reformation leader, wrote the 95 Theses. MLK gets killed on the 95th day of the year. The Jesuits' mission to stop the 95 Theses in Protestant Reformation and recognized by the Roman Catholic Church on September 27th, the day leaving 95 days left in the year. But anyhow, the Jesuit order, 201, Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope, the first to live in Suite 201, Pope Francis, again, the Jesuits from France, the last French pope, the 201st, Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, 201, Leo Jeremiah O'Donovan, former 42nd lead of Georgetown, and Georgetown equals 42 like Jesuit as well, like Freemason, and modern Freemasonry is a Jesuit creation. D.C. in Sumerian Gematria is 42. Georgetown and D.C., established by the Jesuits the same year George Washington was recognized as the first president. But anyway, Leo Jeremiah O'Donovan, Jesuit priest, former 42nd head at Georgetown, he did the funeral for Beau Biden, who died 201 days before the Pope at age 46, and he did the inauguration for Joe Biden, number 46, on the 201st day of the nation's age, written 20/1. And again, you guys don't think these people are clever as hell? Inauguration of the President of the United States is the official title on the government website for January 20th. 201, right? Again, Central Intelligence Agency. You see how it has the 135 in it here? Look how Bavaria is 135. The Illuminati, Order of Illuminati, was founded in Bavaria. The CIA was created on the 201st day of the Pope's age. Bavaria is also 54 like Jesuit order. But Central Intelligence Agency, again, is 135. And look at the child's name. Whoops, I spelled something wrong. I missed a C. Central Intelligence Agency, 135. The child's name, King Javier Black, 135. And we've been talking about the rituals with Gina Cherry Chat. What's her name? Is it Haspel? Yeah, it is. Gina Sherry Haspel, who's the head of the CIA, and what they did with Eminem's music video, urging people to turn in their guns, and how he's staying in Hotel 135 in the video. Anyway, none of this is an accident. It's not an accident that all of these things have been going on throughout history. This 201 has been here at the center. Here, who wrote the Constitution that sounds so good, but do we really have it? I mean, do we really have the protections that we're told about? James Madison's Mr. 201. The first Chief Justice, first head of the U.S. Supreme Court, Chief Justice John Jay, 201. I mean, you go all throughout U.S. history up through now, you just see how it became more and more Jesuit with time. 56 signers on the Declaration of Independence. That's a huge number at the Jesuits, too. Society of Jesus is 56. Again, in Hebrew, Lights 201, but in English, it's 56. Again, Order of Illuminati 201. It's all biblical. The Holy Bible 201. State of Israel 201. David Ben-Gurion, the first PM, dead 201 days after the anniversary of its establishment. Again, biblical, right? Component here in this too. We talked about Acts 7:6 with the whole slave code. I forgot to talk about Ephesians 6:5-9, the most infamous verses in the Bible about slavery. The verses that show that Christianity condones slavery. And all of you Christians who are about the Bible and you think it's the Word of God and it's absolute truth, you need to accept then you do condone slavery. You condone slavery because you think that's God's truth, which means if it's God's truth, it's your truth because you're all about God. And I think it's good to be all about spirituality. I think that's the way everyone should be. But should you believe every last word of books that were printed and mass printed for us and meant to be read to us at a young age when you live in a society where they've also printed other books to control our minds from a young age, to steer us down a path that makes us easier to control? Christianity does condone slavery, and it does say turn the other cheek. And there is a time to turn the other cheek. It's a lot of the time, but sometimes there's a time to say, you know what, you're getting hit back. putting you on your ass and it's going to stop here. But if they try to kill you, then you got to kill them. That's the capability that God gave us, the children of God. I don't think there was just one child of God that you're supposed to believe in, and that's your most important spiritual responsibility. To me, that sounds like a lie to diminish your value as a child of God. And people get mad at me for saying things like that, but I'm going to express what I think. I could be wrong about Christianity. If you can be a great child of God and believe in Jesus and not sit around and wait for him to come save you, you're my kind of Christian. I don't have a problem with you. If you're on here harping on about how this is all bullshit and I'm the devil's son and all we need to do is wait for Jesus, I think you better look in the mirror. That's what I think. But soldier, did I finish the point or did you guys get it already? Did you think about it? Here, let me take it all the way for you. Soldier, right? Dying under the sun, as so many soldiers do, fighting for bullshit. Like after 2 towers became 0, became 1, and they blamed it on a man in a cave, and then they went over and killed the Taliban and brought back all the opioids. And the next thing you know, there's a heroin and now a fentanyl crisis all across the world. And God forbid the fact that fentanyl was approved in 1968, the same year coronavirus was coined, the same year World Trade Center construction began, the same year 911 was made the National Emergency Dialing Code. 911, World Trade Centers were over there. Who was the president then? George W. Bush. His father's nickname was Poppy Bush, because he was in on the whole opioid thing prior with Reagan. You know, the whole Iran-Contra scandal and all that crap's all part of this crooked legacy that some people have looked a little bit into. And, you know, shout out to D26 from India who gave us the history about Yale, how that castle of a campus in Connecticut was built with money off the opioid trade ran out of India. Again, a lot of their secrets do come from the East. These people have been hoarding the knowledge of the world and then crafting it into books and making sure you get everything but the point that you need to get. I'm going to kill you if you don't believe in Jesus because I'm so much better than you. How many people went over that with that in their hearts as young men, soldiers, and made their lives worse and the people over there's lives worse because they were just following orders? But soul, son, die, death, R. What is R? Here in the most simple cipher, R is the 18th letter. How long do you have to be to go die under the sun for these people? Do you have to be 18? You sure do. You got to be 18. See, that's where they have rules and ethics. They're like, well, we only fuck with them until they're 18. We let them live that much of their life. I mean, they get probably a lot of donuts and cake and Kool-Aid and ice cream and Hot Pockets and cartoons and movies and fun. We make their lives so fun. We make them some good, useful idiots too, but man, do they enjoy it. And then, hey, if they want to sign up to be a soldier, you know, they might die for us. Not everybody will die. And come on, man, we're making sure it doesn't happen to you before you're 18. That's how these people are. I think they're so fucking ethical. Haven't you read our Talmud? It says that we have the right. Again, you guys, the Jesuits are a Catholic-Jewish alliance. It's not to blame all Catholics or Jewish, but they're psychopaths in every religion. There's psychopath Christians, and you know what? I actually haven't met any bad Muslims. I haven't. They've been really great people. People get mad at me for saying that too. I used to teach. I'm sure there's bad Muslims. I'm not accounting for every Muslim. I'm just saying I used to teach in a school district where a lot of the parents were immigrants, and they were Muslim, and they came over here as refugees, and I see how they're mixing up America. But I noticed that they were really family-centered and really cared about their child and wanted to talk to me and were friendly and were grateful that they had a nice teacher. You know, and I mean, there's people in other faiths and backgrounds that also appreciate it, but I just noticed the Muslim parents were the most family involved and just there. And I just thought, see, we're like trying to ruin this. Yeah, I think all religion's bad. I mean, there's things, trust me, there's things I look at Islam from the outside. I asked an Islamic man, I was debating with him back. I used to have a lot of Islamic closeted weed smoking Muslims when I had my business. And I had a lot of good conversations with them because that's a great time to strike up a conversation. You know, if you're the type of person who can smoke weed and not get paranoid and freak out, but like think and have a conversation. So many great conversations I had in the time I had that business. And, you know, a lot of the men will express that the reason we cover up our women is so we can control ourselves. And it's like, is that right? Because you can't sexually control yourself? You got to cover up the women? But then it's like, well, their societies seem a lot more intact. I don't know. Maybe that's how, it's like, God help us out, man. We're trying to be better. These yoga pants aren't doing us any favors. Who brought these on the scene? Anyway. It's just, but again, and the Tower of Babel that divides the world ends in Genesis 11:9. The majority of the world writes the 11th of September 11:9. The towers come down, everyone's divided. The Muslims did it. Oh, it was the Jews, it was the dancing Israelis. It was George W. Bush who wants to lead a crusade. So yeah, I haven't even got to the utopia theory exactly. I explained at the beginning how they're killing children for propaganda, but then I see how CNN, and I see other news is syndicating it today too. They're making sure you hear about this story today, October 6th. And besides the 10-6 black thing, the other thing is it's the day leaving 86 days left in the year. The other year, Van Halen died, and he invented the tapping sound. And or wait, am I tripping? What was it? Hold on, am I tripping? I think it was this day, unless I'm confusing with somebody else. Anyway, there's always some weird death thing on this day. Or so often there is, I should say. It's not always, but a lot of the time. And again, we talk about 86 a lot when it comes to weird death. 86 to get rid of, the terminology. But then in Gematria, both human sacrifice and blood sacrifice have the 86 value. And I think about the Utopia show, right? I think about how they're raising children literally to kill for emotional propaganda to steer agendas. And like I look at this kid, you know, I mean, what are things that like make people like more entrenched with a story than others? You know, a nice smiley face, right? A young handsome face. You know, just youth in general. Tragedy. Like we're attracted to this. It's like, it's like, God, why did you put these flaws in us for these psychopaths to manipulate so well? You know what I mean? And that's why some people have the belief that God is both things, good and bad. He wants you to experience it all because then you know, you're not, I mean, it's like, look at a rich kid who never had to do anything in their life and gets everything. That's like, they don't even appreciate it, right? It's like they haven't had a bad day to know how great it is. They have a bad day and they're like, oh my God, I will never complain again. But they're the psychopaths. Again, they're just master manipulators. So they give you the young, handsome, smiley-faced kid, big HD, clear picture. It almost feels like he's your neighbor. And then, you know, he was just outside playing, man. He had all the kid stuff that your kid probably has, you know? You know, this is going to sound wrong, women, and I don't mean it this way, but I think really just think about what I'm saying in light of how society's not meant to be this way. Voting and being manipulated and sucked into things. I just want you to think how there's been this progression in society, and understand, I think women are behind every good man is an even better woman. But again, we both have our flaws and things that are better about us and things that are easily more manipulated. And women are more manipulated more often emotionally. And I think that's changing as we go on. It might actually be becoming a reversal in society, which is also part of the plan. But historically, this is true. And again, you just imagine the female voter is a lot more likely to respond to this story and then in the next ballot vote to undermine rights and liberties, like taking away the weaponry from the men who know they need to fight against this evil, but they just lost their rights because the women got sucked into the story and there was enough of them that, and again, they're not even counting their votes anyway. They're doing what they want to do. That's how bad it is. But I'm just saying, just for people who are like halfway in the story, even invested in it, you see the progression through society since women have been able to vote. Just there's been a lot of movements that just kind of make things more and more feminine and emotional. And now we're in the age of Karens where everyone's so damn sensitive and everything needs to be deleted and censored. So who cares about the First Amendment? My feelings are hurt. Who cares about our right to protect ourselves from tyrants who are evil? We can't afford another King Javier Black. We just can't afford another one, you know? And it's like, well, I think it's going to get worse for all the King Javier Blacks of the world. And I mean, when I say that, I mean all the children of the world, if we continue to march down this agenda where we're allowing ourselves to be manipulated and lied to. And again, if this child was killed with gun violence, the point I'm making is, I think it has a lot to do with what I'm showing you. And it's not an accident. It's not like just some random crime. It's like they literally killed a child to sell the story again about give up your fucking rights. That's the point I'm making. Just like it's the point they make in the show Utopia. How the fuck does Jeff Bezos not get slammed by this media that's so easily provoked? I mean, wasn't that a fucked up thing to do? To remake a show about billionaires faking a pandemic, to lock down the world, to sterilize it for the sake of saving the earth? What a weird fucking show to release while we're on lockdown. And then these elements. Here, if you watch this show, it's very disturbing. The US version's very disturbing. The British version's very disturbing. But if you watch this show, you should. Because there's so many things in it that I think they're trying to clue us into exactly what's going on in the world right now. And it just feels horrible and graphic and evil and painful watching it. It's not a pleasant thing to watch, neither version. But the reason I'd say to put yourself through it and watch both versions is it's because, like, imagine this. Imagine a crime was committed and there were all these different witnesses, right? The trauma of the event's going to make people experience it a different way. Things will black out. If you've been in a bad car accident, some things are scarred in your memory, but other things you can't remember. And anyhow, when you watch both the versions, the British version and the US version, which were made 7 years apart, again, 2013 and 2020, or at least put out at those times, it's like getting different witness accounts of kind of the same crime that was committed. You're seeing more angles of it. And, I mean, some of it might just be like, oh, that's obvious bullshit and to make people go too far off the conspiracy path, or maybe it's not. One thing I wonder about is in the show, there's a guy who works as like a mechanic, and you see that he has a family life and a wife and children. Seems like a really good guy, kind of guy you'd want at your shop. Nothing bad to say about him. But he gets a phone call, and it's like some programming, and he snaps into serial killer mode. It's like, okay, a lot of these stories are like that, the way they present them. I mean, is this shit going on? Is this how deep in the game we are? Is this where the CIA has us? Again, this kid's name has CIA encoded in it. I forgot to finish about the CIA, you guys. I talked about how Central Intelligence Agency has these numbers, and I could tell you a lot more about them because they're all important. But the full letter, the words in the CIA's logo are Central Intelligence Agency, United States of America is 201. And again, it was founded on September 18th, 1947, the 201st day of Pope Pius XII's age. And notice how Catholic Pope's also 201. But even better, the work of a nation, the center of intelligence, 201. That's the CIA's motto. Look it up. That's their exact motto. The work of a nation, the center of intelligence. Howard Hunt. What did he say? He said the best intelligence network in the entire world is the Jesuit order, who claims to have military operations in 112 countries. It's probably more than that. I think they just say 112. Catholicism is 112 and mathematics is 112. These guys got weapons, technology, and Kabbalah magic that seemingly has everybody under mind control. I get offended when my supposed top supporters are driving around talking about how much they hate weed every day but have never smoked weed and never share information like this. And then whenever I say, how come you never share my work? And you just go back to, you're like, Zach, you're so good at it, I don't know how to share it. It's like, nah, I can't keep listening to this, man. This work's not getting out because not enough people are trying to help me get it out. And all the censorship. I should be setting a YouTube record right now. Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is who's influencing all the children. He's setting the record every day. Teaching kids materialism, tons of chocolate bars. Supposedly that he healed a bunch of blind people like he's the new Jesus, Mr. Beast. Sick joke, man. Remember, computer and internet both equal 666, and Sumerian Gematria and Apple priced their first consumer computer at $666. And don't forget X. When you take numerology, X is the 24th letter, but with numerology, it's 2 plus 4 is 6. So XXX is 666. When I was growing up, you'd be driving through certain parts of town, and there'd be things, big letters. This is where the XXX is. And you're like, a kid, you don't know what it means. It's like, why do I keep seeing that? And your mom's like, you don't need to know about what's going on in there. And you're like, it can't be that bad, But now it's all in your pocket, right? And now, what's funny is when I was a kid, a common insult was to call somebody a jerk-off. What the fuck you doing, jerk-off? Another one was a fag. And now you're not allowed to say either of those things, and everybody's jerking off, and half of them are fags. You know what I mean? And it all happened one day at a time, one bullshit drop at a time, one agenda drop at a time to steer everybody to a totally emasculated, ballless, cowardice society that says they're free and brave, where they allow this racism shit and this obvious propaganda to plague their minds and form opinions and become part of agendas as we all screw ourselves over, fighting with each other like idiots. And for anyone who says, well, you fight, I fight back. I don't go out and start needless fights. Some drama happens, I'll address it, and then boom, back to work. These other people, all they really do is make videos circulating the drama. If you guys are new here, I've made my books free to download. If you go to Subscribe Star, Zachary K. Hubbard, you can just like do a Google search and type Subscribe Star, Zachary Hubbard. It'll take you to this page, and you can download both of my books for free. And you can download Letters and Numbers, and you can also down Number Games 9/11 to Coronavirus. And I wasn't going to take any calls, but I'll take one real quick, and then I got to go make Sweet Lady dinner. I got 30 minutes. 210? Yeah.
It's Reyes again. I called you earlier. Hey, I was telling my wife right now because she's like, Zach, he's on again. And I said, yeah, he's out there. The man works. He's working his ass off. He's doing it. She wants to know when's the last time he took a vacation.
I haven't taken any vacations. I've been here every day for over a decade. I don't need vacations. When I'm out vacationing, I feel bad. I went on a little trip with Sweet Lady, but I worked every day while she went out and hung out with her friend. I mean, that's the closest thing I had to a vacation. So.
And that's why I love your work, man, because you're not out there on a Friday night going out there spending your money at some restaurant with some overpriced food that isn't good anyway because you probably make it better at home.
We eat at home. I just shopped at Grocery Outlet. I still shop at the brokest grocery store, but I buy the stuff that looks fresh and organic. I'm all about being as efficient with my money as possible. I'm saving the rest for a rainy day. I had to spend a little bit extra on a nice weapon because I might need it someday and I can't have it overheating.
Exactly. So yeah, she just wanted, she couldn't believe it. She's like, there's no way. I said, there's no point. There's too much work to be done and this has to get out there. There's no time to go out there and play fantasy. There's not. There's no vacation in this work right here, and we appreciate you for that, man. Just good job today. Great stuff.
I'm guessing there'll be some suspensions coming soon, but again, so be it. Some of the things I said in the last stream are probably going to get me in trouble, but it is what it is. It needs to be said. So anyway, I got to get off and make Sweet Lady a dinner, or then there'll be the real trouble. I'm more worried about Sweet Lady than the feds. All right. Appreciate it, man.
Have a good one.
Yeah, take care. Yeah, Sweet Lady. That's the one you don't want to get hot. I know I call her Sweet Lady, but she's Dragon Lady when shit is, she comes home after a hard week of work. She's gonna expect herself a nice little meal. And I do that for my woman. So anyway, we'll leave it there. And until next time. Again, thanks to everyone who hits the like and share.